What's going on, guys? In this video, I want to talk about Sphere 3D. We're going to look at some recent news. I also want to go over their chart. We're going to look at Bitcoin as well. It looks like it's struggling to stay over $40,000. And in the beginning of the day, it was pretty promising. We were looking pretty strong. The Bitcoin miners were starting to rally a little bit. And now it looks like it's a slow bleed throughout the rest of the day, but we'll see how we end. Now, if you guys like these videos, I definitely appreciate your support by hitting the like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, consider joining my YouTube membership, and let's get started. And first off, I want to look at Sphere 3D's December mining update. And I mentioned to you guys to look out for this on their investor relations tab, but somehow this already released on January 4th. So I don't know if I was looking at the 2023 calendar year and just missed this. I don't know if they predated this update or something, but this was nowhere to be found a couple days ago. But looking at their mining update, they mined a little more in December than in November. And one really good thing here is they're focusing on holding a little bit more. While they are selling a majority of their Bitcoin, this time we actually saw them hold roughly 23 Bitcoin, whereas last month they only held about 6. This is one thing that I want to continue to see, and while a lot of the miners are selling, that's creating a lot of downward pressure for Bitcoin, along with FTX selling Bitcoin, and along with the old Mt. Gox as well, bringing more downward pressure. But this will all be short-lived. These miners are taking advantage right now of Bitcoin's run-up from back when it was 15,000, and they're taking advantage in anticipation of the Bitcoin mining rewards getting cut so that they can build their cash balance, so that they can build up their exahash, and these rewards being cut won't affect them as negatively. They're just trying to build out a nice cushion, and let's face it, it's going to take some time for Bitcoin to make up for these rewards being cut. It's not just going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen one day after the halving. It might take throughout 2024 for them to essentially be back where they were pre-halving when Bitcoin was $30,000 to $40,000. Essentially, Bitcoin needs to be $60,000 to $80,000 for them to get the same amount of rewards they would pre-halving at $30,000 to $40,000. But I do believe this is some downward pressure we won't see for very much longer. And once the miners believe they have a decent cash pile, they will focus more on hodling. It's in their best interest. Otherwise, they're making a fatal mistake in my eyes. But Sphere 3D now has Bitcoin holdings of 41 Bitcoin, not a huge amount. But keep in mind, this is a very small market cap. We're talking about $20 million market cap, roughly. One thing I'd like to see in future updates is that exahash to grow. Obviously, that would mean their deployed miners grow. But their mining revenue has now broken over $3 million, step in the right direction. And let's take a look at the CEO's comments. And what a year it has been as we end 2023 on a high note. We brought over 1.3 exahash per second online, canceled our master service agreement with Griffin, which we expect to result in an additional 22.5% to our margins, and came to an agreement with Core Scientific on a complex litigation, and we'll talk about that in just a second. In December 2023, we mined 73.5 Bitcoin, representing a 311% increase year over year, and a 3% increase from November's numbers. One of our hosting sites was down for a significant period, only 51% uptime in December, and we're working with our hosting partner to improve its uptime. The Core Scientific settlement provides us with expected additional capital of $10 million that's non-dilutive to our shareholders. We plan to allocate the new capital to growth that will increase our exahash per second. We believe we are well positioned to take off in 2024. And that was one major issue here, was their overall uptime was somewhere around 70%. So hopefully that hosting site that brought their overall uptime down so considerably can get it back together and get that uptime back where it belongs, meaning more Bitcoin mined, but we'll have to wait until January's update at sometime in February. Now, looking at this Core Scientific update, the terms of this settlement allows Sphere 3D a claim in the amount of $10 million, and they're actually going to receive equity of Core Scientific when it releases back to the market. And the terms of this settlement does not waive any claim Sphere 3D has against Griffin Digital. That's a whole separate deal here. And Sphere 3D believes Griffin Digital owes them roughly 21.6 Bitcoin or $919,000, nearly $1 million. For a company this size and market cap, that is quite a large amount of money. But Griffin is yet to return the funds, and hopefully this doesn't get ugly. Hopefully they don't get lawyers involved. It means it'll cost Sphere 3D more money, but we'll have to see what happens with Griffin here. The positive though is Core Scientific is going to pay out Griffin in equity, in shares basically, and they're paying them essentially half of their market cap. I think this is pretty big. I think the market isn't paying attention to this. There's a lot more going on. The market's more focused on what Bitcoin's doing and then playing with the miners accordingly. But moving on, Sphere 3D does give a little halving update and says Sphere 3D has anticipated the halving and is preparing accordingly. We are focusing on various alternatives and considering all options for growth, including but not limited to adding exahash organically, mergers and acquisitions, as well as other options. Sphere 3D is currently focused on strategic opportunities and on maintaining operational efficiency. Let me know what you guys think about this mining update and this Core Scientific update. I think them receiving $10 million in equity is a pretty big deal. Of course, Core Scientific could just suddenly tank and Sphere 3D would essentially be getting less equity. But $10 million in capital is a huge thing for a company like Sphere 3D that's only sitting right now at $26 million in market cap. Now, I do want to talk about Bitcoin. This is obviously, for the most part, going to dictate where the miners are going to move. Bitcoin has dropped roughly 21% from its recent peak, and we bounced off an important level of support that I did mention here at roughly 38,500, but it looks like we're finding resistance on a previous ascending trend line. And I want to show you the previous ascending trend line that we broke. You'll see this white line here was previously a resistance. We flipped it, it became a support. We broke it and it became a resistance again before falling down even further, finding support, bottoming out here at 38,500, and finding this yellow line now so far as a resistance. It was a previous support line, and you'll see way back here it actually started as a resistance. I don't know if the market is even looking at it that far. I don't know if this is even relevant, but you'll see that the market did utilize this yellow line as an ascending support, and now it looks like we broke it, fell, a couple percent from there, and now we're finding resistance on it. I think it's going to be important to see if we can actually flip this as support or if it remains as a resistance. But this 38,000 area is a very important level to watch. I do think if we break this 38,000 area, there is a possibility we head all the way down to 35,000. But Bitcoin is now more towards the oversold side than overbought. It's not yet oversold, but it is closer to oversold. And I think now's a great time to continue to add. But if we do somehow break down to 35,000, we'll likely be very oversold on the RSI, and it'll be even a better opportunity to be able to add. The question is, do we get there? Nobody knows. It's up to the market to dictate. And technicals are all great, but remember, they don't always play out how you might expect. Patterns more often than not do play out, but there is that opportunity, there is that chance that the market doesn't care about a pattern, maybe some news comes out, positive or negative, and the market creates its next pattern, or the market just does something completely different. But technicals are great to give you potential ideas of where something can go, potential levels to watch out for, but the market isn't always going to 100% react to certain levels of support and resistance, so keep that in mind. But if you're excited to get into Bitcoin when it was 45, getting towards 49,000, I think now is the time to be excited to get into Bitcoin. We've now cooled off quite a bit from being so overbought, and I want to show you guys again, every time Bitcoin has got near oversold, just touching oversold, looking back, it's been a great opportunity to buy. And when it gets heavily oversold, even better. There's not a single time in all of 2023 where buying on an oversold RSI was a bad play. And obviously that makes sense because we're near 52-week highs. But if you're a buyer of Bitcoin regardless, you definitely want to be buying a little heavier when we're more oversold, and either hold off or buy a little lighter if you're DCAing when we're overbought. But there's all kinds of strategies that will end up successful. You could always just put 20 bucks a week regardless of price, and I do think that'll still pay off in full. Bitcoin I expect to be much, much higher in price by the end of 2024 and even higher in 2025. And soon people will be looking back saying, wow, I wish I would have bought Bitcoin at 49,000. Wow, I wish I would have bought Bitcoin at 60,000. And there's always that possibility that, in a couple months, once we get into the halving, once all the fear subsided, once all this selling pressure from the miners has gone away, Bitcoin goes on a crazy run and we never see 30,000s again. We never see 20,000s again. I think in the next crypto winter, it's possible that we break our previous all-time high. It's happened in previous cycles. The previous high does not end up being a support and we break slightly under it. I think at the bottom of the next bear market, we could be somewhere in the 40,000s. But I'll save more talk on that for a future video, more in the heat of the bull run. I got a little sidetracked there, but the point is, if Bitcoin does break, head towards 35,000, obviously the miners are likely to drop, but these miners are going to be even more oversold. These miners are going to be even better opportunities to buy. And looking back, this selling pressure, this slight fear in the market here, people are going to wish they didn't stick their head in the sand and avoid buying, or saying, oh, I'll just wait until it gets to 20,000 to buy. I'll wait till 30,000 to buy. People are going to wish they continued to DCA or wish they'd buy when oversold. But we'll see how this ages in a couple months. I think I'll turn out to be right. Now, looking at Sphere 3D on the chart, I'm very happy with this. We filled our gap. We're finding support on previous resistance point, and we're not able to break down from this high volume profile. And sure enough, we bounced right at that 160 area, and we're still maintaining that as support. Now, I have been adding Sphere 3D into this pain. I've been just slowly adding here and there. I'm now roughly 10-20% under my cost basis, so I'm taking advantage of that, getting my cost basis down a bit. I think any miners you're a little red on, it's a great opportunity to add, get your cost basis down. And while it's possible Sphere 3D sees some more pain, we're not yet oversold, we could fall down potentially even to the dollar area. And while I find it unlikely, keep in mind this is a very volatile stock, it's very risky. We are going to see these huge fluctuations in price, these 30 to 50% up days, but also these 10 on top of 5 on top of 10 on top of 6 on top of 5 kind of down days where you're just seeing consistent bleeding. We're going to have these consistent bleeding days too. But Sphere 3D is now 60% down from its recent peak, but it is still 200% up from its bottom. So there are still people that are deep in profits. There's still possibility that people are taking profits. There's of course the possibility of people that just bought that it's going down and they want to just leave and exit. But I do think now is the time to be nibbling at stocks like Sphere 3D. These are very small market cap stocks. Once the money starts entering into Bitcoin, once the hype starts rolling in, it doesn't take a lot of money for these stocks like Sphere 3D that are at $26 million market cap to run up massively. We've seen these up 50% days, up 30% days, and we will see more of those. Now, I want to quickly mention CleanSpark for you guys. We found support so far in the low sixes. We finally filled this gap here a couple days ago. And as I've said in previous videos, I'm watching for this support to hold. So far, so good. But like I said, if Bitcoin breaks down to 35,000, it's very possible CleanSpark heads towards its 100 EMA, which is sitting right at $6, which will also be a psychological support level. And if we drop very quick from here, that'll show CleanSpark very oversold on the RSI, which will be a great time to add. But get ready because CleanSpark's earnings is only a few weeks away. I do expect them to beat their revenue estimates, and I think it's going to be a very exciting call. They're going to talk about their 16 exahash expansion, how far they are along with that. They did say in the beginning of 2024 they'll get that online. They're also going to talk about their 50 exahash expansion goal, and I think it's going to be a very exciting earnings call. But stick around because I will be covering that when it comes out. Let me know what you guys think about Sphere 3D and CleanSpark right now. What other miners are you looking at? There are definitely some great deals across the board with many Bitcoin miners down 30 to 60% in some cases. But remember, the market goes in cycles. We go from overbought to oversold, back to overbought. We have these runs, we have profit taking. We have a little bit of short-term fear, people getting worried and exiting. When you're looking at the best performing asset of all time, you want to be buying during that fear. You don't want to get tricked out of your Bitcoin. You don't want to sell your Bitcoin and have BlackRock pick it up. They are definitely buying. They're going to keep getting a larger and larger percentage of the overall Bitcoin. And that's something that we really don't want in the end. And while yes, it's great we have institutional adoption, it gives Bitcoin more credibility. It gives the potential for people investing in their 401ks, among many other things. In the end, you want to buy as much Bitcoin as you can, and you don't want to sell it to the BlackRocks, the Fidelities, because make no mistake, they are after our Bitcoin. But I'll leave it at that. What do you guys think? Do you think Bitcoin is heading towards 35,000? Or do you think it's time to start rallying into the Bitcoin halving? In the end, we should welcome these cheaper prices. It gives us the opportunity to buy more Bitcoin and accumulate even more than we would otherwise if Bitcoin was, say, 50,000 and above. So don't be distraught, don't be dismayed that we're not breaking new 52-week highs. Be excited. You get to buy more Bitcoin for your money than you would otherwise. But thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.